Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and I have two fun Easter cards to share with you today. Hey, so I'm using Jaded Blossom's Easter Tweetings stamp set and the outline dies. They're bow dies, they're triangle square card mat dies, they're gnome dies chick add-ons, the bunny trail stamp set, Jaded Blossom scallop circle and stitch circle dies, the penguin faces stamp set, along with the girl gnome dies. And I'm using the Bunny Hop 6-inch pad, Candy Stripe and Sprinkles, both from Doodlebug. So first I'm going to stamp a sentiment from that Easter Tweetings stamp set. So this says, "You crack me up." So I'm stamping that onto paper tray ink cardstock in white with VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. Next I'm going to stamp another sentiment. Oops, I need to get a bigger piece of paper onto paper tray ink white cardstock. There we go, in the same VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. They're wishing you an excellent Easter. So I'll stamp it a couple of times just to make sure I get a good stamped image. And there. Next I'm going to stamp a face from the Penguin Faces stamp set onto the Gnome Dies Chick add-ons chick. There we go. And I'm going to stamp a sentiment on the inside of my card as well, using Happy Easter from the Jaded Blossom Bunny Trail stamp set. So I'm just lining it up using my Misty, and then I'll stamp that in VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink as well. There. So remember, you just don't want to press too hard, because you can kind of, spread out the lines of your sentiment, right? Now I am going to stamp into a second card, because I'm making two cards today, using that same Happy Easter sentiment. There, so I've got my two sentiments stamped. So now on the inside of the card, I'm going to add a 1-inch strip of paper from that Doodlebug Bunny Hop 6-inch pad. I'm just going to add on some paper here. There, about 1/4 inch from the bottom. All my die cutting today was done with my Anna Griffin Empress, kind of as normal. Working on a Stampin' Up pad, also my normal. I'm going to add a 1-inch strip to my other card as well. This was a little bit skinnier than 1 inch. I just used what I had left of that paper. And I'm going to trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors. There it is. And now I'm going to use some of these odds and ends from Doodlebug's Bunny Hop odds and ends set. And I'm going to add those to the inside of the two Easter cards. There. Because I'm going to have chicks on both of my cards. So I'll have chicks on the inside of my cards. So there, I'm going to add a little chick to this one as well. Too cute. Okay, so adding a few little highlights here and there again on these little odds and ends. Just for fun, like I always say. A little bit of highlights here and there always makes it look a little bit better, I think. So there's the inside of the cards. I'm going to pull out a black glaze pen, and I will fill in the eyes. But you're going to have to put these off to the side to dry, because they will smear. It takes a little time to dry, but it does add a little bit of dimension and some shine, which I like. So there we are. So now I'm going to cut out my sentiments with the outline dies. So I will, tape them in place just to, make sure they don't mess up. I'm going to run those through my Anna Griffin Empress machine. So just, like I said, taping them in place. And these will be 2 quick sentiments for my card fronts. Now I'm going to put together my little chicks. So you'll see I cut out a circle. This is just to add some yellow below the belly. So wherever it peaks up above the egg, it will, look like it's, all chick, because this was meant to be a hat, right, for the gnomes. So I'm just going to glue it down. Now the cardstock that I used was Lemon Tart from Paper Tray Ink. There, and then the shell was cut from Paper Tray Ink white cardstock, and you can see that I used candy stripe and sprinkles for the chick itself. And the super cute penguin faces stamp set. So there, so you could have used anything under there to, you know, just act as a belly for this chick. So I just added some secure white jelly roll pen for that eye, just filling in the highlight, and then some EK Success chalk. And now I'm going to add on the little beak that was cut from Orange Zest cardstock from Paper Tray Ink. And now we have a super cute little chick. I'm going to give it a few freckles on their little pink cheeks and highlight on the beak. And isn't that adorable? Just making sure that's all set. Now next I'm going to assemble my other little chick. So that is cut from Candy Stripe and Sprinkles again from Doodlebug. Adding some EK Success chalk and some secure white jelly roll pen like I did with the other. Then I'm going to add on the white shell cut from Paper Tray Ink white cardstock. There, just lining things up. I'm going to add the little legs that were cut from Orange Zest cardstock from Paper Tray Ink, the same as the little beak. Adding those with some Barely Art glue. And then I'm going to add my little beak on with a dot of Barely Art glue again and my embellishment wand. Oh, once I get it in place. There, and isn't that cute? This is just an adorable little chick that will go on my other card. There, and I do weight it down with an acrylic block. I'm taking a bow from Jaded Blossom bow dies and adding that to my big chick. That was cut from Paper Tray Ink, I think it was hibiscus cardstock. And then this is cut from the same, but it's the girl gnome dies that I used for the little bows. So next I'm going to put together my triangle card mat die. And what I do is I cut the whole backing out of white cardstock, and then I use score tape on top of it. And then I add my frame in place, and then I can just fill in all of the little pattern triangles where I want. Now I used paper from that Doodlebug Bunny Hop 6-inch pad, and I'm just going to alternate these patterns as I go along. Remember, if you have a directional pattern, you're going to want to make sure that the triangle's facing in the right direction. So you can cut as many patterns as you like. You can alternate, you can have them all the same, you can have each triangle can be a different one if you want, whatever you want. So there is one of the backgrounds for the cards that I'm making. So super easy. Oh, I'm just trimming off. This is my own fault. I cut it a little bit larger than the actual triangle square mat die itself. I just find it's easier than using glue. Using some sort of double-sided adhesive is probably your best friend for using these card mat dies from Jaded Blossom. Now, this is my next one, doing the exact same thing. I apply the score tape to some lightweight white cardstock. I believe this was Nina Solar White 80 pound. And I add, like I said, peel off the relief paper. Now I'm going to add my pattern paper to it. Remember, this paper is all from Doodlebug's Bunny Hop 6-inch paper line. And now I'm going to add in my patterned triangles. And I am alternating. I just think these make for some really fun and interesting backgrounds. And it's also a great way to use up your 6-inch pads. If you have a lot of leftover paper and scraps, you could easily fit the scraps in your triangle card mat and, cut up a bunch of the scraps and use them. There, so now I am adding in my patterns, and there we go. And I'm going to do the same thing and trim off that overhanging white cardstock with my non-stick scissors. Although, let's be honest, everything sticks, right? But not as bad as like plain stainless steel. So now I have my little background that I'm going to stick down on my card front here. There we go. So lining it up on my card base that's made from paper tray ink white cardstock. And I'm going to stick down my other one here. Using my ATG tape again, I just find it's just the easiest to work with. Although you don't really get the chance to lift it and move it around as you do with like some glue. Sometimes you can, move something that's glued down. You've got a little bit of wiggle room. Whereas ATG tape, that's going to stay there. Okay, so I'm grabbing my two little sentiments out. And then I will, assemble my card. So I'm going to add the big chick onto this one. There, we're going to add that to the center of my card. I love that little winking penguin face. It's just super cute. Another way to use it. Now for this one, I used Jaded Blossom circle dies. So I used a 1.5 inch stitch circle, and then I used a 1 3/4 inch plain circle die just from my stash, and then a 2-inch scallop circle. And I layered them up. So you'll see that I'm using that same hibiscus burst cardstock from Paper Tray Ink. Kind of matches the pattern paper. And then I used Paper Tray Ink white cardstock and then pattern paper from that 6-inch pad. I'm going to add that to the center of my card front with some Barely Art glue. That gives me a little bit of wiggle time to get it centered as good as I can. Kind of lining that up there. And then I will add my chick to the center of this circle with that same Barely Art glue. So these are just some fun cards. Remember, you can add whatever images you want to the front of these triangle square mat dies. I just think that it's a super cute background and a great way to use pattern paper. So I'm using some Doodlebug shape sprinkles. This one is called All My Love. I'm going to add a little pink heart to the center of this guy, the center of his or her shell. Next, I'm going to pop up my sentiment with some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. And you know me, I like to use a lot of dimensionals just so nothing dips. There, and I'm using the normal sized ones and the mini ones to fill in the little spaces. I'll peel off that release paper from the back. And then I'm going to add that to my card front here in a moment, once I have all my backings peeled off. So it says, "You crack me up," and then on the inside it'll say Happy Easter. All right, so there's one. Isn't that cute? And the other one will say, "Wishing you an Egg-cellent Easter." There it is. And I'll do the same thing for this. I'm going to add a bunch of dimensionals on this guy, just to make sure that the sentiment stays nice and flat. Doesn't dip at all. Okay, so once I have this covered in dimensionals, I peeled off the back, and then I'm going to pop that on front of the egg on this big chick. So "Wishing you an excellent Easter," and that's the inside. And now I'm going to be using these little heart shape sprinkles from Doodlebug. Those are called All My Love. And then I'm also going to be using the puffy icon stickers. These are from the what is it called? The Bunny Hop puffy icon stickers from Doodlebug. So I'm going to add those in a visual triangle. And trying to decide what else I'm going to do. I'm going to add a couple of these hearts as well from that All My Love set. There, so visual triangles, odd numbers, and all that jazz. Just makes a simple card decoration, and the card's pretty simple and straightforward as well. So there is that one, and oops, there's the inside. Now for my other one, I'm going to use the same little hearts, and I'm also going to be using these puffy icon stickers as well, in visual triangles. and all those things. So there we go. And there's the inside. So super fun and easy. And there's the other one with the inside. So thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jaded Blossom blog, be inspired by the team, the Jaded Blossom store, to get your hands on these super cute products. And thanks as always for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. Make sure you're a follower over at the Jaded Blossom YouTube site and the Leanne K YouTube site. Bye everybody.